have mercy on America and this beautiful earth. Some fresh water. Hopefully it's fresh. It's a little muddy. Prep some peaches.
I think some people have been very close to asking. First of all, I look at.
Ooh, they're looking good.
And I haven't been watching it too closely, although it's certainly getting a lot of coverage. I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in
So
years.
tasty. I really want to
He
eat
used to
them.
really like me a lot. I think when I ran for politics, he sort of that relationship busted up.
What happened?
When I read, I don't
Tell me
know. He
more.
didn't tell me that, but I'd read some.
The orchard is coming.
statements, in the paper all of a sudden, you know, it's different. You become a much different person when you run for politics, and you do what's right. I could do other things, and I'm
Yeah,
sure
politics, I tell you,
other people would like me, but
it's something else.
for our country. As we said, our country's doing really well because of what we're doing. So
I hope our country can really bring it back.
Contest. So, I don't know. I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me. I have great support on the tariffs. I mean, I was so honored that we got that ridiculous stay lifted because I would have taken away presidential.
This is Hale's done.
Away everything that was granted by
The
federal
perfection of suckanut. Sucka seed.
They would have left us vulnerable. We have a lot of
Oppa.
countries that use tariffs on us. And use them
Replay.
viciously.
Ready?
And if we didn't have the power
Well,
to
hello.
use tariffs on them, and instantly, not when you go back to
Oh,
Congress
shoot.
and try and get hundreds of people to agree on something, that would take months.
Haha.
Just one simple proclamation. If we didn't have the power to counteract their powers, you wouldn't have a country left. We have to act fast. We have to be fast and nimble, as they say. And hopefully they will go to court and just win that battle. Because if we don't have the power to do what they're doing to us, we are going to be a great nation no longer.
Preach, Mr. Trump, preach.
Was once idolized by
Very nice.
before joining your administration. Now he's considered a hero by conservatives. Why do you think this man, what he's done in American life, has been so politicized? It doesn't.
Well, his life has been amazing. I mean, I look at so many different things. I look at that rocket being, guided back into position. I've never seen that before. I thought it was a space balloon. I thought it was a movie. You look at what he's done in terms of communication. It's been unbelievable. So many different, even tunnels going underground, not having to go through all the process of.
Wow.
He's got a couple-
America's innovating.
He's got so many different companies. Starlink, as an example, he saved a lot of lives, probably hundreds of lives in North Carolina. I don't even know if you remember, but I called you. They needed Starlink in North Carolina, and I didn't know what the hell Starlink was. I said, "What is it? Who owns it?" He said, "Do you know Elon Musk?" I said, "You happen to know the gentleman." This was before his government stay. And they said, I did it because North Carolina became an island. People had no communication, they had no access to anything, and they were dying.
Check this out.
And I called up Elon, and you can't get it because it's so successful. It's very hard to get. And he had so much of it brought over there, and they told me it was unbelievable. It saved a lot of lives. So, he's just done a lot of things. Frankly, I don't think he gets credit for what he's done. But he's a very good person, too. If he wasn't a good person, but he did the same things, I'd probably maybe speak differently. He happens to be a really good person who loves the country.
Oh, yeah.
It's a huge cut, but there's the things I'd like to see maybe cut a little bit more. I'd like to see a bigger cut in taxes. It's going to be the largest tax decrease our country. I'd like to see it get down to an even lower number. I was shooting for a slightly lower number. I would have
Preach, Trump.
done that. But with all of that being said, when you look at the tax cut and the fact that the original tax cut made us so successful, we had the most successful 4 years in the history of our country, the economy, and this is going to be even better. And you see that by the reports that came out yesterday or tonight. I guess they were released at 8 o'clock. You see the kind of numbers where somebody that's a pro is like, I haven't seen numbers like this since I've been doing this. You know, these are human emotions, professionals that have never seen numbers like that. And we've just started. The bill is a great bill. It's going to be jiggered around a little bit. It's going to be negotiated with the Senate, with the House. But the end result is it extends the Trump tax cuts. If it doesn't get approved, you'll have a 68% tax increase. It's going to go up 68%. That's a number that nobody's ever heard of before. You'll have a massive tax increase. If it doesn't get approved, a large tax cut, the largest we've ever had. When you add the past tax cut, we got you, the Trump tax.
Huge tax cut or possibly inflation.
It's an amazing bill. It does amazing things. With all of that, it's going to be adjusted a little bit over the next coming weeks, and I think it's going to be passed.
Interesting.
With all of the great things it does, including an extension of debt. It's the extension. We have to extend the debt. If we don't extend debt, we're in default. Now, the Democrats might like our country to be in default, but in 250 years, we've never been in default.
Wow.
That was handed to them by a very well-meaning man that gave it to them because he thought it was the right thing to do. It could have been their problem before the election. This man thought it was the right thing to do, and it was well-meaning. I don't hold anything against him for that, but that was put on our plate when it should have been on the Democrats. September 28th, a famous date. It should have been taken care of by the Democrats, but this person, man of power, gave it to us so that in June that comes through. Well, we have to take care of that because if we don't take care of it, we have a country in default, and we don't ever want to have a country in default. You know, I'll tell you, a certain senator, Elizabeth Warren, said that she would never ever allow a default. She would never let it happen. And she would like to get rid of the debt ceiling. I call it the debt extension because we really need an extension. And she'd like to see that gotten rid of. And there are many people that agree, many Democrats agree with that. But we gave that through, and you know, I don't want to say an error, he did it well-meaning. They gave that to us. It was a Democrat problem. Just before the election, would have had a huge impact on the election. And to our benefit, we won anyway, but to our benefit. But felt that really for the good of the country, we should extend that. But Elizabeth Warren and various other people would like to see that, her whole career she wanted to see it terminated, gotten rid of, not being voted on every 5 years or 10 years. And the reason was because it's so catastrophic for our country. And I always agreed with her. That was one thing I agreed with her on. Now, I haven't spoken to her, but
Oh my gosh, the big
I
one.
would say that if you asked her that question now, she'd say, no, it's their problem. But it's a very unfortunate
One of the biggest
situation.
wars.
It's a very unfair situation. And she happened to be right on that. It
Big
should be gotten
five.
rid of, or it should simply be extended. But that's one of the things that gets taken care of in this bill. That automatically gets extended for a 4-year period. And it should be. But I agree with Elizabeth Warren on that. I think you should get rid of it. It's too catastrophic. Yeah, please, go ahead. The students, well, we want to have great students here. We just don't want students that are causing trouble. We want to have students. I want to have foreign students. I think Harvard, you know, it's close to 31%. That's a lot. Our country's given $5 billion plus to Harvard over a short period of time. Nobody knew that. We found that out. I wouldn't say that was a Doge thing, but we found that out over a period of time. It was sort of a group thing. We ended up in litigation for other reasons because they're very anti-Semitic. And in finding out and then going through the trials that the country gave them,
These some peaches.
much more than
Oh shit.
Let's get out with them and let's see what happens. I think we have a very good, well, it's a very sad case. It's a case we win. We can't lose that case. We have the right to make grants. We're not going to make any grants like that. But I don't think Harvard's been acting very. I think Columbia wants to get to the bottom. They've acted very well. And there are others.
Where are my nice chairs?
Trying to be.
These chairs are falling apart.
Days we find another $100 million that was given. Last 2 days ago we found $200 million more. The money's getting that like I like this.
Oh yeah. Look what I have here. Very nice. Alright, I'm gonna upload this. Not yet. In 10 minutes. Can't have me peach fuzz cleaning. Peach fuzz cutty.
So, yeah, no, I was just watching around with the and go ahead, punch me in the face. And he did. Turns out even a 5-year-old punched you in the face, actually. I saw this film. But I didn't really feel much at the time, but then I guess it brings it up. But I just watched around.
I didn't notice it actually.
I know that you try to be pretty peaceful because I'm your reporter. But
By the way, not my war. I just want to solve the problem for people. This was not a war that was going to happen if I were president.
right, so not your war. But as you try to fix it, and as you survey this hellscape of the Ukrainian front lines,
It's horrible.
and you guys, you and your team deal with a very stubborn Vladimir Putin. Do you look
And Zelensky.
but do you look at this
Very stubborn
company
Zelensky too.
training differently now? Like, do you look at this and see Putin as good guy or bad?
So I've known him very well, and I went through a lot of things with him because Russia was, the Russia hoax turned out to be a total hoax. New York Times, he got a Pulitzer Prize. They have to give back the Pulitzer Prize. That's my lawsuit, and they're doing very poorly in that lawsuit. But they wrote stories about how it was true and it was false, and a lot of Washington Post also. I have gotten to see things that I was very surprised at. Rockets being shot into cities like Kiev during a negotiation that I felt was maybe very close to ending, solve a problem, and then all of a sudden rockets got shot into a couple of cities and people died. I saw things that I was surprised at. So, and I don't like being surprised. So I'm very disappointed in that way.
I hate surprises.
That being said, I'd like to see it end. 5,000 people, I think the number's even more than that, but 5,000 people a week are being killed. Mostly soldiers, but also people that live in little cities and towns throughout Ukraine. And I'd like to see that stop.
And I asked Caroline this yesterday, but I want to ask you directly. So many of the things you're trying to do are held up in court right now. If the courts are going to have so much influence over U.S. policy, do you wish you would have just become a judge?
Yeah, well, look, it wasn't meant to be that way. If you look at the founders, the president had certain powers, and you have your three groups, and they all had supposed to be pretty equal powers. But you can't have a judge in Boston running foreign policy in places all over the country because he's got a liberal bent or he's a radical left person. That's what the executive branch is for. You have checks and balances. But we had millions of people pour into our country, many, many criminals poured into our country, murderers, mental institutions from all over the world being emptied out into our country. And if we don't get them out and get them out quickly, we're going to lose your country very easily. He said, this is a bad, that anybody would allow this to happen to our country. You know, with all of the things, we took over inflation, we took over some wars, we took over a lot of problems that didn't exist when I was president. None of it existed. We wiped out ISIS. Other than that, we had no wars. Putin was never going to hit Ukraine. Israel would have never been attacked. That attack, as you know, Iran had no money. They didn't have money for Hamas. They didn't have money for Hezbollah. They had no money whatsoever. That wasn't going to happen. All of these things that happened weren't going to happen. You wouldn't have had inflation. So it's very sad when I came back, but the thing that is the hardest is that they allowed 21 million people into our country, and many of those people are stone cold criminals. They moved their criminal population into the United States, and of all the things that are bad, I solved inflation, I believe already. I got the fuel prices down, the fuel prices came down. It's one of the reasons they screwed up the energy, they screwed up the cost of gasoline, oil, gas, and you had tremendous inflation, the greatest inflation probably in the history of our country under Biden. And when people said, oh, but the economy was, no, the economy was terrible for the people because they couldn't afford the energy, and the energy brought everything else up. Energy is the big deal. But with all of that, we solved that already in 4 months. We solved it. $1.99 to $1.98 gasoline. First time people have seen that in a long time since my term. But the hardest thing to solve is millions of people pouring into our country, many of whom are criminals. Because remember, these countries are smart. Their leaders are very street smart. They're sending the people that they don't want. They don't want the people that are there, that are law-abiding, that are productive, that are working hard. They want people that are in jails. We have them. They allow them to come in. And I always look to the other side, like, why would somebody do something? You know, in business, I try and study, why would they want to do this? Why would they want to sell it? Why would they want to buy it? One thing I can't figure out is, what would an administration, what were they thinking when they allowed millions of people from prisons all over the world, not just from South America, Venezuela, all over the world, from the Congo in Africa. Hundreds of people, thousands of people from the Congo, rough prisoners, from Asia, from Europe, rough parts of Europe. Why would they allow them to come into our country? Why would they do that? It's the one thing I can't figure out. And I don't believe it was Joe Biden. I really don't. I mean, he's been a sort of a moderate person over his lifetime, not a smart person, but a somewhat vicious person, I will say. If you feel sorry for him, don't feel so sorry because he's vicious. What he did with his political opponent and all of the people that he hurt a lot of people, Biden. And so I really don't feel sorry for him, but he wasn't a person that would allow murderers to come into our country. He wasn't a person that was in favor of transgender for anybody that wanted to take kids out of families, etc., etc. So I just don't understand why a thing like this, how a thing like this could have been allowed to happen.
Preach, Trump.
Very sad. It's very sad for our country.
Very sad for our human race, civilization.
I think the fundamental moral flaw of the left is empathy for the criminals and not empathy for the victims. Empathy for the criminals, but not empathy for the victims. And there's been way too much of that. That needs to stop.
Good morning!
To the President's point, there's been immense judicial overreach.
You want some peaches?
Unconstitutional. That was never intended.
You want peaches?
Undermining the people's faith in the legal system needs to stop. It's gone too far.
And just today, we had, just a couple of hours ago, we had a great decision from the Supreme Court, thank goodness.
Gone once.
It's very important. We had two important
Home twice.
on the tariffs, because again, we have
You want peaches?
fair fight with other
Yeah?
countries. Howard, you say it. We have to be able to
I could be better.
use tariffs, the few people that use tariffs, and have that power of tariffs.
I'm working peaches.
destroyed as a country because they will destroy us. Other countries.
I don't just give them away, but for you, I love you.
Tariffs. We can check them when we have the use. They tried to take that power away from us. And if you take that power away, we're not going to have a country. We won't have an economically viable country.
Fuck it.
But,
Fuck it.
it's very important in immigration that we be able to get people out without having to go to a long court case. And it's up to some of these judges. Every single one of these millions of people, criminals, prisoners that were let go from jails because they saved a fortune when they did. They brought them into the United States. You know, they're saving the money they're saving. But some of them murders. It's very important that we're able to get those people out of here fast, bring them back to their country where they belong. And those countries take them. Because if they don't take them, they have to go through the wrath of the United States, and they take them. We have judges that don't want that to happen. And it's a terrible thing. That's going through the court system right now, that whole situation. But when ICE and with Border Patrol, they've done an incredible job. When they do this incredible job, and they capture 100 killers and drug dealers, and we can't keep them for years here as we go through trials. We have to get them out rapidly, and we know who they are. We know who they are. And we're very careful about who they are, but we have to get them out rapidly, or again, we're not going to have a country. Okay? Maybe one or two more. Go ahead. Well, he's going to end up building his whole car here. I mean, I thought he built his whole car. Pretty much he does. He's got incredible factories. Like I looked at one in Texas. It's unbelievable. No way. All of the manufacturers will build their parts here too. I mean, I used to bother me. They make a part in Canada, a part in Mexico, a part in Europe, and sent all over the place, and nobody knew what the hell was happening. I think it's ridiculous. You build a car, make it in America, and I gave them a little leeway on that. You know, gave them some leeway, but over the next year, they've got to have the whole thing built in America. That's what we want. We want America to buy American-built cars. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Right out this way. Thanks, guys.
Good meeting. It was a good meeting.
Are you considering things?
Thank you very much. So today we're honored to swear in Jeanine Pirro, somebody I've known for a long time, and she's an incredible person, an incredible woman, as our new interim United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. It's a big deal. And I'd like to congratulate Jeanine and her whole family, and we have Christine with us, and Alex, I know, is in a very, very important place right now. And the two children, but they're not children anymore. And I've heard that Christine, you're doing unbelievably well, very successful at a great law firm. So it's great to have you with us. Thank you very much. Over 5 decades, Jeanine Pirro, known by millions as Judge Jeanine, has devoted her life to the pursuit of justice, the defense of freedom, and the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. That's what she's about. She was a great DA. I remember her very well. She was as good as anybody I've seen. She began her career in 1975 as an assistant district attorney in Westchester County, New York, where she prosecuted violent crimes, and that was a serious prosecution. And she went after real criminals, not fake criminals like we seem to do today nowadays. People that shouldn't be prosecuted, including rape, murder. And was a tireless warrior on behalf of the most vulnerable people in our society. In that role, Jeanine helped create one of our country's first domestic violence bureaus. I think it was the first, Jeanine. And as its chief, she revolutionized victim protection and bold, innovative policies like very few people